Hey guys, this will be our little short lesson here on angle relationships. If you don't have it already, um, we'll need the sub here to go ahead and pass out the notes worksheet for the students. Go ahead and pause the video and take care of that if it is not done yet. All right. We're going to be talking about a few of our main angle relationships, and this is going to be the basic form of this. We'll start getting into some of the more complex parts when I get back here tomorrow. So let's go ahead and start here with adjacent angles. Now, adjacent angles, I'm going to give you just a simple version of this. Okay. It's essentially two angles that are side by side. And we have this example over here of two adjacent angles. Notice A and B are two angles, okay, and they are side by side. Okay, so we would be able to say that angle A and angle B are adjacent. Now, we want to be careful when we are doing these. Like a non-example, okay, that could look similar. Okay, we could say that angle 1 here, or angle A, okay, and one that sometimes gets confusing is angle A, which is this little one right here, and angle BAC. Okay, well, angle BAC is this big angle that's A is inside of. Those would not be considered side by side. Okay, so adjacent angles, they need to be side by side. All right, our next one that we want to talk about is a linear pair, or what we will call supplementary angles. Okay, now with this particular one, let's first talk about the linear pair part. And really, guys, these two things, these two words, supplementary angles and linear pair, they kind of go hand in hand. They're really the same thing. It's just a little bit different terminology. Essentially, this is adjacent angles, not that form a line, essentially. Now, what's important about this, when you see this, A and B here, those would be a linear pair or supplementary angles. Okay, notice that when we do that, okay, that these two angles form, the sides of them, they end up making this line right here. Okay. Now, what's really important about this and what this is used for is it'll help us in order to create equations. Okay. For supplementary angles, one thing we know about them is that they add up to 180 degrees. Okay. So when we get this situation here, like in number 3, okay, we have two supplementary angles. They form a linear pair. Well, one thing I do know is that if I add 95 and B, I should get 180. So I can form a quick equation by that. B plus 95 equals 180. And I can quickly figure out what B is. So just solve that equation. Minus 95 on both sides. And B is going to be 85 degrees. Okay. And that's really the big use for us with supplementary angles. Okay. And we'll talk more about supplementary angles, okay, than we will necessarily linear pair. But they do mean the same thing. They're talking about the same basic concept. The big thing to take away, they add up to 180 degrees. Okay. The next one we're going to talk about is complementary angles. And I always try to remember the difference between supplementary and complementary. And my teacher told me was this little saying, giving compliments is the right thing to do. Now, the key word in that is the right thing to do, because complementary angles, okay, together they form a right angle. Okay. Notice when you look at this example here, okay, that has this little box here. Remember, that's a 90-degree angle. That is a right angle. So it's two adjacent angles, A and B, that form a right angle. Two adjacent angles that form a right angle. Okay. And the mathematical part of this that we have to remember is that these two would add up to 90 degrees. Okay. So complementary angles add up to 90 degrees. So when we look at this example here, it was number 5, we have these two angles. Okay. We have complementary angles. Okay. We see that it is a right angle right there. So I can quickly be able to write an equation and figure out what this is. So I know if I add angle B in 36 degrees, that's supposed to equal 90 degrees. So I have B plus 36 equals 90. Well, I would go ahead and solve this simple equation. It's just a one-step equation, minus 36 on both sides, and B is 54 degrees. Okay. The last type that we want to talk about is our vertical angles. Okay. Now, vertical angles happen when two lines cross. So notice when you look at this particular example, notice that when we're talking vertical angles, we have two lines that cross each other, that intersect. Okay, that's the situation that this is going to be formed in. And the vertical angles are the ones that are opposite each other. Okay, so they're the opposite angles that are formed when two lines cross. Opposite angles that are formed when two lines cross. Now, the important thing about this is they are equal to each other. Okay, so that's the mathematical part that we would get out of this. So like when you're looking at, this one with just the A and B, I know that A equals B. They're the same thing. Okay, they're going to be the same measure. Okay, so in this quick example here, sorry about that. There we go. This quick example here, we're trying to find angle B. I see these are vertical angles, so I simply know that they are equal to each other. And that's all I do. Okay, that's what vertical angles are. Okay, so those are our main types that we're going to be dealing with right now. These are going to be applied to help us do more complex problems, like I said. But when it comes down to it, we have our basic rules. Adjacent means that they're side by side. That's it. Supplementary means that they add up to 180. Okay. They form that linear pair. Complementary, they're going to add up to 90 degrees. And vertical angles, they're equal to each other. Okay. Those are the main types of relationships that we're going to be dealing with. Okay. What I want you guys to do is we are going to go ahead and do the homework assignment here. in a second, once the instructions are done, sub, I want you to go ahead and pass this out. But I want to remind you guys, when you are done with this worksheet, and it should not take you too long to do it. I did not put a ton on there. Okay. But when you are finished with the worksheet, make sure you do check your answers. Okay. The sub has the answer key. Okay. Number two, when you're finished, you need to make sure you are working on Alex. Okay. Do not waste the time. Okay. You might get done early. Use the 5-10 minutes, whatever it happens to be. Okay. Get an Alex topic or two finished while you're here today, and make sure you're staying on top of that. I will see you guys tomorrow, and we will talk a little bit more about exactly how we are going to do some more of these. All right. Have a great day.